Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get this started. Thank you again for being here. My name is Keith Gaitan. I'm Director of Operations for Lease. And with us today, we also have Zach Sabag, and he is an automotive financial guru wizard and knows and understands automotive leasing inside and out and upside and down. So let's go through and get everyone up to speed for a minute on why this is prevalent today. So right now, there's going to be 1 million more cars coming off lease this year compared to 2015. And all this volume is putting a lot more supply than demand, which can put downward pressure on used car prices. And if those prices fall, well, the whole system can come unstuck. So the deluge, though, however, is good news for used car dealers, for auto auction houses, for car buyers. They really stand to benefit from this bountiful supply. They're high quality, they're off lease, they're like new vehicles. By the end of 2019, is an estimated 12 million low mileage like new vehicles are coming off leases that were inked during 2014 and 2016. It's really helping independent dealers right now to turn a quick profit. In fact, big players like AutoNation have made an aim to benefit from selling late model vehicles at a discount versus brand new cars. They're looking to really capitalize on this. So these rising off-lease numbers means a higher supply at a more attractive price. Of course, when there's more supply than demand, the price has to come down. Meanwhile, right now, the auto industry had 7 years of phenomenal growth, but it is slowing down. Auto manufacturers are definitely putting discounts out there still because they're trying to keep the growth going or at least maintain the status quo. The average is a 10% off new vehicle sales price per J.D. Power and Associates. Slumping prices, they hurt automakers and house lenders. They price leasing used cars by residual value, and when all of a sudden the market is flooded with these cars, that presumed residual value is wrong and decrease, and of course profits suffer. Now, if you're a used buyer and you have this awesome inventory of used cars, you generally have one option, that is to buy. It means you got to come up with a down payment. You're going to go for 3, 5, 7 year term, but that's it. However, if you can give a used car shopper more options, then that obviously opens the door to more availability to close more sales. And that's where used leasing can really come into play. And this was posted yesterday, and I talked about it. Ward's Auto did this whole story. It's a 20-minute segment on it. You have here an owner of an auto group. You have a gentleman from Ally Bank, because they're really leading the way when it comes to used vehicle leasing. Now, here right now, and this is one of the handouts that are available to you. This is the current list of eligible used vehicles that Ally Financial will do used leases on. It's a really good list. You got Acura, you have Jaguar, Jeep, Kia, Toyota, Maserati, Lincoln. It's a nice, robust list that fits just about every dealer's lot, from trade-ins of other manufacturers to their own lot. Now, a used lease, the guidelines are pretty strict. There's a 400-page guideline book on how to calculate these leases. Needless to say, it's a tedious process. It's open to miscalculations and mistakes. And I'm going to let Zach kind of walk us through exactly how you calculate a used lease. Zach, if you'd like to walk us through this.
Sure. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us tonight and sort of listening in on how to get used car leasing going in your stores. So as Keith did a great job of explaining, calculating a used car lease is very tedious. And more importantly, there's additional steps that get taken into account versus your traditional new car lease. So obviously, because the car is used, the vehicle has miles on the car. Now, the residual value on a used vehicle is actually a dollar-based residual versus a percentage-based residual. So for like a new car, it can be like 54%, but on a used car, it's $14,367. The problem is that dollar-based residual is set saying the car has, say, 45,000 miles on it. Well, what if the vehicle has 39,000 miles on it, or 42,363 miles on it? So there has to be a mileage adjustment. So start mileage adjustment. So you take the mileage the vehicle starts with, you take the guideline from Ally. They'll say if the car's got 45,000 miles on it from inception, it's worth X. and then you have to residualize the vehicle either upwards or downwards, depending on the class of the vehicle. So if it's a standard car like a Japanese product, Honda, Toyota, say it's 15 cents. But if it's a BMW, the mileage adjustment is by 20 cents, or Maserati, it's by 40 cents. So depending on the class vehicle, you have to adjust accordingly by mile. Now here's the catch. With the Ally program, you can only adjust upwards by $1,000. They won't let you cap more than that. And downwards, it cannot exceed 15% of the residual value. So from there, you have that's the first part to get the residual value sort of going. Then on the miles allowed adjustment, so if you wanted to do, say, a 10,000 mile year lease versus a 15,000 mile year lease, or 12,000 mile year lease rather, you would take book out value, which in most cases, NADA clean trade, that seems to be the standard today. You multiply that by a percentage. So they'll say, okay, 4% of book out value, and then you add that to the residual on a dollar basis, and now you bring the residual upwards, lowering the price, and then that new residual value will be based on 12,000 miles a year or 10,000 miles a year, depending on the adjustment you decide to make. At that point, you take, like I just explained, the residual adjustment, which is the third line. You take the, let's say, 4% of book out plus the new residual adjustment you made in the beginning, add it together, and now you get the total residual. And then now you can start calculating your lease. So at that point, you take selling price like you would, you take your term, you take your new residual, and then that's how you calculate a used car lease. So I'm sure I lost half of you through this process. I get confused sometimes because there's so much going on. So I mean, I'm proud to say that we've sort of automated that, but we'll get into it a little later.
Yeah.
You can change the terms in these systems. So residualizing the car for, 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. Obviously, that same process now, wash, rinse, repeat. And then when you have credit tiers, the money factor is always based on top tier. But if you wanted to change rates, there's a guideline in there that says, C paper or B paper or D paper, use X money factor for sell.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to the next slide.
Yeah, thank you. So
yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so needless to say, it's arduous, it's time consuming, and it is open to errors. So Zach, with his brilliant mind, right, created a tool that does all of that work instantaneously and automatically. Takes that 400 pages of guidelines, puts it all into code, updates with the bank. Now that we're talking about used, but it also this tool works with any captive automotive bank. So taps in, locks into all their guidelines, updates every 24 hours for rate changes, changes of what are qualified vehicles or not. Keeping it real simple, right? So it does all the work, and it's so easy to use that even a new car sales associate first day on the job can pencil a lease right there on the floor, even a used lease, using this tool. And it allows also, it's customer facing. That's one of the things is once you get someone into the F&I office and they start using their F&I tools to go through, and then they want to go, okay, what if I change the terms and do that? They can do all that live because they're on their computer at their desktop, and they have their little widget from their bank to go ahead and calculate all that. And then the customer is just accepting the numbers they're giving them. And this really puts the power into the customer's hands because they get their own button that they can go through and they can change all those terms. And what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and show you that right now. So I'm going to click on here and go straight to it. And I've put a link here as well that you guys can go to. But let's look at, like, for example, new lease inventory. This is our marketplace. We host all manufacturers, all dealerships on our marketplace. It's just an extra place for people to browse and have more exposure. So I'll just take the first car. It's listed here. I go to lease details, and I can see that it's going to show me the best price right now is $169 a month for 36 months. But I, as a customer, can go, okay, well, what if I want to do 24 months or 10,000 miles? What if I want to do 48 months? What if I want to go ahead and throw $2,000 down and calculate it? It'll recalculate automatically. Oh, I just lowered my payment. So if I want to come in with a little bit of down instead of zero down on a lease, which is a nice thing about a lease, you can actually calculate them so that the person comes in with zero down and just walks out and starts off with payments. They can find, okay, this is how much I have to spend, versus when you go to buy a car, they definitely have to have a down payment. So this is where you can And over the long term, let's say, you know, with millennials and everything that are trying to swap out phones every year, they're going to swap out cars versus I got to buy a used car. I'm going to finance it for 3, 5, or 7 years. By the time I'm done with that, that car is 5 to 10 years old, and I'm stuck with it. And it's probably I'm going to get $1,000 trade in on it. Versus I can go, okay, I'm just going to lease something that's right where I want, but only for 2 years, because after 2 years maybe I'll be able to go to buy, or I'll lease again. So they can go in and they can, change all this up. It changes instantaneously. Our algorithm works really good. Let me show you a used lease widget, which will do the same thing. So here's a 2015 Hyundai, lease details. So right now it's showing you get option of 2436. You don't get 48 because of the age of the vehicle. It exceeds that. That's already calculated. Same thing, here's the best payment showing, but I can go, okay, I want to go 24 months. I want to do 15,000 miles a year. Okay, that's 152. That's pretty good. Maybe I want to throw down $3,000 on it, right? So I can go ahead and do that. See what that does my payment, lowers it even more. So I get to control this as the customer. And then very simply, you have a lease breakdown page. This is where the penciling comes in to play for a sales associate. They can go, okay, here's all the info that you need to put into your F&I software. Shows you net cap costs, all the calculations, and then they go, you print this, right? Can save it as a PDF or send it straight to their F&I manager's desk. Put it in the jacket, give it to the customer, hand them off. They simply input all the numbers that we've already put here right into the F&I software, and it calculates it automatically. Here's a cool thing. If the customer's credit comes back less than stellar, you automatically have the rates to type into your F&I software. It'll automatically adjust all the figures that need to be done, submit it, and that deal is done. So that's how that tool works and how that widget works. Fairly simple, fairly straightforward. And the other unique caveat to it is our tool, our widget, it, as I said, syncs with the captive bank every 24 hours for new cars and for used, whoever the captive is for used. Right now, LA seems to be at the forefront for used. It also, every 24 hours, scrapes your entire inventory through your DMS system, finding qualified cars, and then automatically puts the button on the VDP, and the buttons are engineered to match the theme of your VDP. It's an automated process, and it just updates every 24 hours. It's guaranteed to always be there. And we guarantee the tool works so accurately, we indemnify the dealer, just deliver the car, and we'll take care of the rest if for some reason the payment is incorrect at that time. So what we could do now is I can go to some Q&A if you guys would like. And let me know if you guys have any questions that we could answer for you. We'd love to. So one question that I have is on new cars, they're new, and so they're obviously in pristine condition. On a used car, how do we gauge that if it gets turned back in to us and there's damage on it? Zach, can you answer that?
That's a great question, actually. So part of the Ally process, when you originate a used lease, right, you're going to do sort of a pre-delivery inspection. So you'll mark the car wherever the car may have a nick or dent here and there, whatever it is. And then you submit that with your funding paperwork to show that the vehicle has, imperfections, because it's a used car. It's going to have something. Obviously you can't lease a vehicle that, you took a sledgehammer to the door, right? The bank is not going to appreciate that. But, a door ding or a scratch within reason, things like that. As long as you mark it that the vehicle has that damage, when the vehicle is returned at the end of the lease, the consumer won't be charged for those damages that were marked. And then traditionally, of course, if there is damage that the consumer had put on the vehicle, they'll be charged the same way they would have if the car was new. A pre-delivery, pre-lease return inspection, they get their lease return report. Okay, this car's got $362 in damage. Ally Financial will bill them for the damage. Same process as you would on new.
Excellent. Thank you, Zach. And unlike new used vehicles, which are usually done by in-house, the manufacturer's own finance department, and then they come back to turn it into the dealership, how does the used lease turn-in process work with Ally and a lot?
So that's actually the really advantageous part about this product is that technically the car can be returned at any dealer that has Ally, right? So hypothetically, if you're a Jeep store and the car you lease out a used lease, the customer can go and technically return it at say a Cadillac store, right? Hypothetically, but the consumers don't really realize that. They realize that if they're going to lease the car from dealership ABC, they're going to have to return it to dealership ABC. So you're actually almost creating your own retention practically by force. So that's really answer. It could be sort of returned at any Ally participating dealer, but of course we don't tell them that. We tell them you have to come back to us for retention.
Thank you. So another question, which is, if at the end of that lease, then that car is maybe worth less than the initial residual value, what obligation does that dealership have to taking that car back and taking the loss?
Absolute no obligation. The lease, the residual value is on Ally Financial, not on the dealer. So if Ally sets a residual for say $3,000 at the end of the lease, and the car is worth $2,800 or $2,400 at the end of the lease, that's not your problem. That's Ally's problem. Now, on the flip side, if the car actually built equity at the end of the lease, you have absolutely the opportunity as a dealer to purchase the vehicle from Ally and put it on your lot for sale.
And Ally will let them have it at the initial calculated residual value?
Basically, there's like a dealer buyout purchase price. It's probably slightly different, but basically you call into Ally Finance. I'm sure most dealers have done payoffs with other lenders. It's the same process. You call the bank, hey, I need a dealer payoff. They tell you the value, you purchase the car, and that's it.
Excellent. I think that got some of the most main questions here. Some of the other questions were, where can I see the tool? I put it in the link there. You can just go to thinklease.com, and that you'll see the buttons at the top of the page where you can go to the different modules and see exactly how the tool, the widget, works for new cars with the captive bank for that manufacturer, that dealership, as well as the used. And our used right now, like I said, Ally is leading the way. So all those used cars and all the calculations that are happening with them are going through Ally's financial tools and terms. I promise to make this short and sweet, a nice 20-minute workshop for everybody to really understand the ins and outs of used leasing and the prominence that it could have in the industry coming up very soon with this deluge of used cars. So I'd like to say thanks, everyone, for attending. Zach, if you want to say thank you to everybody?
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for joining us on this little used leasing adventure. And hopefully we can chat soon again.
Absolutely. Everyone have a great evening. Happy holidays. And goodbye.
Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.